South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa, says that they are willing to share their lessons from its peaceful transition to democracy with the U.S.
Here's a summary of the article.
South Africa is ready to share with the U.S. its experience of a peaceful transition to democracy. This follows a violent riot in that country this week, where supporters of President Donald Trump invaded the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Ramaphosa said what happened shook the foundations of democracy in the U.S. South Africa is ready to share its experience of a peaceful transition to democracy with the U.S., should that country ask for help, President Cyril Ramaphosa has said. This follows a violent riot in the U.S. this week, where supporters of President Donald Trump invaded the Capitol in Washington, D.C. At the time, Congress was voting to certify the result of the recent presidential election and declare Joe Biden president-elect. I was pleased to hear one of them say they have a lot to learn, even from Nelson Mandela and from South Africa, Ramaphosa told the SABC's Mzwandile Mbeje in an interview on Saturday. Ramaphosa admitted he was shocked about the events that unfolded in the U.S. this past week, just like people around the world, but said the country should be allowed the space to deal with its problem. He said what happened shook the foundations of democracy in the U.S. So we wish them luck and we wish them very well. They have got to handle it in terms of their processes and their own constitution. Your News 24 subscription is an investment in independent journalism.
This post received a score of 120,000, with an upvote ratio of 71%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Not only was the transition of political power from the apartheid government to the ANC not peaceful at all. South Africa as a country is a flawed democracy because there is no separation of powers between the executive branch of government and juridical branch of government because the president gets to appoint the chief justice, which in turn has led to massive amount of corruption without consequences.
I respect Nelson Mandela so much, but after him, the SA government has just continued to shit the bed. His immediate successor completely fucked the AIDS epidemic there, causing something like 10% of the population to be HIV positive. If I remember correctly, after like 5 years they had to do the equivalent of impeachment to get him out. It's so sad cause the struggle of apartheid is such an inspiring story, but you've had this very flawed government take over and basically squander so much goodwill.
5 years? Try 9 years, that's like having 9 years of Trump but worse. I'd take Trump over Jacob Zuma if I had no other choice. Zuma royally fucked my country. So glad he was kicked out, if he was still in now with COVID-19 fucking saw too,
This peaceful transition of democracy has not been peaceful. If it was peaceful, we wouldn't have factions in the ANC of good vs evil, political party members killing each other for position of power, and the Marxists and fascist F running around spouting racism and destroying everything in sight. SA is a breaking country, and has no place to be a positive example. If you are not a South African, read about the Guptas in South Africa and state capture in SA. Edit, our neighbour, Namibia, where they have an elected politician called Adolf Hitler, serves as a better example than South Africa.
I want to argue with you so badly and fight for the pride of this country that I truly love, but I'd only be lying to myself. Everything you've said is unfortunately spot on. That's not to say there are no positives about SA. The positives you'll find though will come from true South Africans that embrace the idea of Ubuntu. That are caring, loving, kind and awesome. It's just that you'll get nothing good from the government or those in power.
I haven't heard that word since high school. Ubuntu.
And here I thought it was just a Linux distribution.
An African word, meaning can't install Debian.
Or, can't use Arch, haha.
Nah, you just need to program it to defeat data, then it can use Arch.
You know, Africa needs a consistent, cheap, and clean energy source to come into its own. I'm sure the luminous power of this burn could light up the continent for years to come. Edit, thanks everyone for the awards and kind words. Now I just have to figure out what awards are for. XD.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.